Good morning and welcome to the December 10th, 2019 Board of Supervisors meeting. As customary, if we could please rise for a moment of silence. Supervisor Crandall, can you please lead us in the pledge?
Yes. Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For consideration of extra items not appearing on the posted agenda, is there any extra items? 5, approval of consent agenda. Consent agenda are items that are seen as non-controversial, and they can be moved by one motion unless somebody from the board wishes to remove an item for further clarification or questions. Anybody from the board wishes to remove an item? Any comments or questions from the public? I'll bring it back to the board.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items 5.1 through 5.22.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I know our public input is our 6.1 or 905 item. Is there anybody out there wishing to give public input? Because we're going to be going into closed session, but I wanted to make sure that happened or we would wait. Seeing none, then we will be going into closed session, but then coming back for open. So closed session item is our 8.4, public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B, interviews of register of voters, interim register of voters, and B, appointment of register of voters, interim register of voters. With that, we will go into closed session. Thank you.
This is a really big deal,
Yeah, it's
and I
really
appreciate
good.
it. So if you'd like to
Yeah.
say something.
So my name is Wendy Gonzalez. I'm the social worker for the EA Family Services, formerly known as Environmental Alternatives. We still go by either or, because everybody knows us as Environmental Alternatives. So I've been the social worker for the last, I would say, 3 Christmases for EA Family Services, and I feel like each and every year the county workers turn out with amazing gifts, and we truly appreciate it because it's the simplest things that are among the biggest for the little ones that receive these toys. So again, from the bottom of my heart, and our agency is very grateful. So thank you so much for that, and we really, 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 really appreciate you for making their day a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that, and I'll bring those over.
All right,
After the
sounds
meeting.
good. All right, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll-
Okay, and then we'll come back to calendars later. We're going to go to our 6.2 item, our 9:30 a.m. item, presentation of 2018 annual crop report. Stephen, want to come up and join us?
Okay, the gross value of agriculture in 2018 was 111,470,311, which is a decrease of 8% from 2017. The number one commodity, that's the next item.
Oh, that's the next item. So we want to turn the lights back on.
I can see this fine. Mark is the one who's going to give it, so anyway.
It's okay.
Jeff, sorry. Give it, so anyway. The number one commodity was wine grapes. The gross value was 81.5 million. It's down 4%. Production was down 3%. Price per ton down 1.5%. Total acres went up 172 acres. So we're at 9,680. So acreage still grows, and there seems to be a decline in the overall value. There was a glut of grapes on the market last year, statewide. So, the commodity was pear. The second was pears at 21.2 million, down 21%. Production was down 20%. Price per ton down 2%. Total acres kind of held steady at 2011, but after the 2018 season, there was significant acres removed, and 2019, the biggest grower pulled out. So I can see the acres of pears going down and down. Number 3 is going to be walnuts. That was 3.45 million, down 6%. Production up 3%, price per ton down 10%. And the total acres down 200 acres. Walnuts are also declining in acres, but not as steeply as pears. Cattle and calves were 4th. Gross was 1.75 million, up 15% based on improved prices. Other crops were timber at 282,885, up 61. Vegetables 250,000, up 19. Nursery production was at 1 million, up 9%. Miscellaneous fruits and vegetables 105,500, up 2%. Field and seed crops at 1.8 million, down 4%. Livestock and poultry products were 148,700, down 6%. There were 127 organic farms covering 2,180 acres. Walnuts far and away 1,688 out of 2,188. So obviously walnuts are king when it comes to organic. Gross value was 5.8 million. And lastly, I'd like to thank the many individuals and organizations who helped contribute making this report possible.
Thank you. Is there any questions for Stephen? Any questions or comments from the public on this item? With that, can we go to the next item? Are you ready? Our Supervisor Spatier?
Yeah, I do have a quick question. On the livestock production, was that for the traditional use, or I know that there's a lot more use for like fire suppression reasons? There's a lot more sheep or goats out there. Was it just for traditional purposes? Because livestock went up a decent amount of percentage.
That's okay. That's what I should have said was cattle.
Okay,
That's cattle.
Okay.
The goats, sheep, that's under miscellaneous.
gotcha. Thank you.
Future, I'll put cattle in the future.
Okay, if there's nothing further, then I'll read the next item. Our 6.3 item, our 9:35 a.m. item, presentation of crop report plus economic contributions of Lake County agriculture.
And Jeff Langholz did the report, so here's the answer. Any questions? Since there's those multiplying factors and other mathematical formulas that I don't know a lot about.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
thank you.
Thanks for that intro, and thanks for the opportunity to be here. As Commissioner Hajic said, my name is Jeff Langholz, and I'm the co-author of this study, the Crop Report Plus. I have to apologize in advance. They call economics the dismal science for a good reason. It can be pretty dry and boring, but I'll go through the presentation. It'll take about 10 minutes to cover it all. It might seem like 2 hours, given that it's economics, but bear with me, and then I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. All right, so let's get started. The title there, The Economic Contributions of Lake County Agriculture. We finished this report earlier in the year. In the next 10 minutes, I'll cover 3 things. I'll talk about the rationale for this study, a little bit about our methods that we used, and then last, the key findings. First, in terms of the rationale, why do this study? Lake County, like counties all across the state, typically quantifies the dollar value of agricultural production. But there's a larger question as well, which is more like how important is ag? What's its overall contribution to sustaining a healthy local economy in Lake County? And there is a mandate for quantifying the value of agriculture. You just heard the 2018 agricultural report from Commissioner Hajic, and every county does that. They've been doing it for decades because of Section 2279 of the California Food and Ag Code. But now that we have these modern tools, we can go a step farther. Instead of just looking at production value of wine grapes and livestock and so on, we have all these interesting 21st century economic tools that allow us to go not just through production, but also look at locally sourced value-added food processing and also look at multiplier effects and employment. So since we've got all these fancy tools, we thought we would apply them here and see if we can come up with, paint a clearer picture of how much ag is really worth. This is a growing trend. As you see on this slide, Lake County is the 17th in California to report agriculture's fuller value in this way. And you can see on the list there the counties that have already done this. And so Lake joins this growing number who are using these 21st century econometric modeling tools to paint a clearer picture of ag's contribution. Well, that's the rationale for the study. Let's talk about the methods, how we go about this. Our methods consist of three main approaches. First of all, we get the highest quality data out there. We spend money and buy a proprietary data set called IMPLAN. And IMPLAN is the most widely used, most sophisticated data set out there. It's also an econometric modeling program. And it provides, I don't know, if the ag data we can normally get through the county agencies and state agencies is pretty unidimensional, this comes from 12 different sources. It's much more robust, much more sophisticated data. And second, rigorous methods. We have some very clear guidelines in terms of what things we include in agriculture's tally and what things we don't, and how we crunch all the numbers. And then third, we consult with local experts. We interact with agricultural commissioners, in this case with Commissioner Hajic, and he provides a conduit to whether it's pear growers or other producers to help us make sure we've got these numbers as accurate as possible. Just a quick big picture here about the local economy. When you walk out this door and you see the economy happening in Lakeport and beyond, keep in mind that it's a complex machine. What an economist would see when they walk out the door here is they'll see agriculture happening, and we'll put this in a cluster. It'll have production, it'll have food processing, and other things, including the shippers and handlers and packagers, and it might even have some tourism and recreation, I don't know, wine tastings and weddings at wineries and so on. That's a lot of ag stuff going right there. But it's connected to the local economy. For example, local households. Some people are working as laborers in ag and also getting paid to do that. And then there are government agencies, local and state government agencies, who are providing services to these to the ag industry and collecting taxes. And then there's also wholesale and retail trade. And then there's also input services and supplies, for example, people providing fertilizer and seeds to the ag industry. And so we can put a dollar figure on every one of those boxes now. We can track how that pound of grapes ripples in the economy through local households and government agencies and Safeway, grocery store, and other things. And then, as you can imagine, Lake County is connected to California and the rest of the world. So we can also measure what gets exported outside of the county and what comes in by the way of supplies. Of course, when you guys walk out the door, you don't see this invisible economic machine. You see something like this. You see pears and livestock, and you see people spending money on weddings and casinos and buying groceries and so on. So it's kind of this invisible economic machine behind the system, but we can finally use X-ray vision and quantify that. And a key part of this are these things called multiplier effects. And there are two kinds. These are the ripples. When you grow a ton of olives or pears and sell it, it creates these ripples through the economy. Part of those are indirect effects. These are business-to-business expenditures. You have to buy seeds and fertilizer and so on, vehicles, insurance. If you're in animal production, maybe you have veterinarian services, chemicals, contract work, and so on. I put a picture there of irrigation tube in wine grapes, for example. So you need irrigation and other supplies. And then on the other hand, we have induced effects. This is consumer spending by the agricultural companies and their employees and their suppliers. And so people, when they get their money, they go buy groceries and healthcare and housing and utilities and clothing and transportation and education and entertainment and dozens of other things with that money. So now that agricultural money is circulating through the economy, and we can track that. Well, that brings us to the third and final part, which are the findings. I'll talk about three things. First, what do we learn about on the production side, and then on the local processing, and then last, we'll combine those into totals. I grabbed a number of tables from the report, and I'm sorry if they're a little hard to see, but this is the farm production one. And you can see on the left the different sectors that we use, and it adds up to $245 million in farm production. That's including all those ripples, those indirect and induced multiplier effects. And on employment, you can see how many direct employees were in ag production, and then when you add in the multiplier effects, how many additional jobs it supported. When we look at processing, you can see the numbers here. Mostly it's wineries. You can see the wineries were, including the multiplier effects, were responsible for 86.2 million in output. And then we have some other small scale processing and packing going on. And the total there is 94.1 million and 307 employees. So we can add these now, and you can get the farm production in the first table, and then the processing, locally sourced value-added food processing in the second table, and that gives us the final tally. The total value of the ag industry, you can see in terms of economic output, it's $339 million, which when you compare that to the number that's in Commissioner Hajick's annual agricultural report, it's almost triple that amount. And then in terms of employment, it's 2,202 employees. We have a graphic in the report that kind of summarizes this. If you take that total value of ag, 339 million, and just count the direct part, the direct production for the direct output for production and processing, that $241 million. When you look at the entire Lake County economy of about $3.3 billion, it ends up being 7.5% of the county economy. And over on the employment side, it ends up being about 1 out of every 12 employees in the county are directly involved with agriculture. So with that, I think I'll be glad to open it up to whatever questions you have. Let me just emphasize again that we've covered the rationale for the study, why it's important to understand these things and how they fit into sustaining a healthy Lake County economy. We talked about the methods, and we've talked about the main findings here. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. I guess I'll just summarize by saying when you go out and you look at the agriculture in this county, you think it's pretty clear that ag is pretty important. And I think the main message from this study is it's probably more important than we thought it was to sustaining a healthy economy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that report. Is there any questions or comments from the board before I open up to public?
I just want to say thank you very much. I know when I first came on the board, I was kind of asking a few questions about, what type of employment and opportunities are there. So I appreciate the report. If I have any more in-depth questions, I'll reach out to Rich and then we can have a conversation. But I do appreciate it because understanding that, like you said, you see it when you drive by it and those types of things. We grow a lot of grapes here that end up in other counties and other things. Most of the wine in Napa has Lake County grapes in it. So making sure that we're benefiting from that is always important. So I appreciate the information. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Supervisor Sabatier?
And just to check in, so obviously this was 2018. In 2019, we saw our first hemp grows. Will that be under the ag crop report for next year, or similar to cannabis, it will be separate?
Separate at best,
Okay.
because we don't have any good way to gather figures on hemp or cannabis.
Any further questions from the board? Is there any questions or comments from the public on this item? Okay. With that, well, I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to our 6.4 item, our 10 a.m. item, presentation of the point-in-time count. If Jordan and Chris, if you want to come up and join us. Jordan is the chair of the PIT Count Committee, and Chris is the chair of the Continuum of Care. Come up and actually sit with us. Come sit. Yeah, come sit. Welcome, and thank you for coming.
I want to start off by saying thank you for allowing us to come and give a presentation on the point-in-time count. And thank you to the executive team of the Continuum of Care. A lot of stuff behind the scenes that ties into the point-in-time count and why it's all important. So I definitely want to say thank you. The first thing we did was we got a website up, and it's lakecoc.org. And the reason why I bring that up is because all the topics we're going to discuss are on our webpage as well. So again, that's lakecoc.org. Where the point-in-time count is going to be on the 27th this year, and it's going to be at various locations throughout the lake, which I'll get through in a minute. Another important date to look at is January 24th is a date that we're going to be packing the bags. And these bags are donated items and items that are gifted towards, it's going to be bags that are handed out to people that provide data for the point-in-time count. And the reason why the point-in-time count is important in this county is for affordable housing. A lot of the housing projects we've been looking at, our numbers aren't supportive. Our point-in-time counts in the past haven't had the numbers to support the housing projects we're looking at doing in the county. So that's why we've been really focusing on beefing this up. So a couple of things that we're doing starting off is this week flyers will be going out for volunteers that are going to be needed for the date of the point-in-time count. And those flyers are going to be going out in the newspapers and out on social media. And then I will be coordinating which volunteers are going to different locations. And each location is going to have a person that's designated to that area to answer questions for that area. The other part we're going to be, starting in the next 2 weeks, the flyers will be going out about the point-in-time count. And on those flyers, it's going to have locations and the cities of where the people can congregate and meet to fill out information, or where people are going to be going out to count. Our next point-in-time count meeting for going over the planning purposes is going to be on Thursday the 19th at 8:30 a.m. at Redwood Coast Services here in Lakeport. The locations we have set up right now, we have 7 throughout the county. Clear Lake is at the Vaz. Kelseyville is Lake Family Resource Center. The Oaks is at Big Oaks Peer Support. Lucerne is at the Cafe Thrift Store. Everybody knows it's a Snake Lady. It's on Highway 20. Lakeport is the County Veteran Service Office, and in Middletown is the churches there. The Pastor Shannon runs. And the last thing that I'd like to kind of piggyback on, and some of the issues we've had in the past with our point-in-time count and our COC, is getting law enforcement involved. And that's why I'm glad that you guys asked that we give the presentation here. Because a lot of people get arrested that are homeless, and they get out and then they're homeless. They have nowhere to go. And so last year, the point-in-time count, they actually did a big, they went around the county, city of Clear Lake and certain areas, and busted up all the camps about a week before the point-in-time count. And so we were doing our planning purposes of where we're going to send volunteers to go count people for the point-in-time count, and then law enforcement, did their part that they're doing, and kind of moved all that around. So it made it harder to get those numbers. Moving forward with the COC, one of the things we're trying to do is have strategic planning, where we have certain locations throughout the lake that if someone is homeless or at risk of being homeless, they have one point of contact to call. And, law enforcement should be very involved in that as well, because of the fact that they know these people have nowhere to go when they get out, or they know they're going into an environment where it's conducive, where they're going to be back on the streets. And so that's been the one area for the point-in-time count that's really hasn't really helped us in the past. And so that's where I'm asking your support in that as well.
Have you reached out to the?
We have, and the COC as a backdrop hasn't moved forward with collection of data that they've needed to for the housing projects. So our COC is actually getting our HMIS system up and running, which will allow all the different organizations to collect that data, which will then allow to get more funding in the county for federal money that we haven't been able to get to in the past.
Supervisor Sabatier.
I know that the last year's number were close to like 50% of the previous year's numbers. Do you attribute that decrease to what you just said, that camps were moved around, or was there other issues to help decrease those numbers? In my opinion, I don't believe that we had 50% less homeless people in the area. I think that we just didn't catch those people in order to count them. We weren't able to find them, or whatever the case was. And so do you attribute it to that, or are you planning on doing something else to try to really I hate to say raise the numbers. We don't want to inflate them, but we want to get the real numbers.
Right. So I'm going to go over 3 different topics on that. Last year, I talked about the law enforcement running the camps and breaking those up, but also the weather last year was a big part of that. It rained. It was raining the whole week up leading to the count. And so that was a big part of it. A lot of them were actually leaving the county. The second issue that I want to talk about was that we've been doing the point-in-time count. This is the 6th year we've been doing it. And 2 years ago, our numbers inflated from all the other years. That last year's numbers were hugely increased. And part of that was we had a new point in time count chair that decided we were going to try and do things differently. And what they did was when they saw somebody, they counted them as homeless. But they didn't actually get all the data that goes with that person. So even though we've been averaging about 200 to 350 previous years, you know, 2 years ago we got 600. And so, but then when we did the count in 2019, January this year, our numbers were right aligned with the other years in the past. So we had to actually do some justification as to why one year was so higher than the others. And basically it was we're going to get more numbers, but we didn't actually get all the data that would support the housing projects, which that big number actually hurt in a lot of the federal funding areas to apply because we didn't have the numbers to support it on the inside, even though the overall number was higher.
Right. And do you use the, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, the McKinney-Bento definition of homelessness, or is there a different, like couch surfing counts as homeless, or?
So in the point in time count, we count everyone. It doesn't matter if they're at risk of homeless or wherever they're at, we're going to take the paperwork on them and count them because there's all different types of grants and every definition of homelessness is different in every grant. So we're going to take all that data and collect all that data. But as far as for the HUD funding for housing, you know, there are specific, you know, criteria that we have to use, and we are going to use McKinney-Vento on that.
Nice.
Well, and to piggyback off of that, the count will be all day this year, where we're planning on having people go in the morning and the afternoon, so the count can be even bigger, because sometimes people are still waking up, but if we find them at 2 p.m., then they can get counted. So hopefully that will help as well.
Supervisor Brown?
One thing I wanted to make you aware of that Moak and I learned last Thursday at a meeting with Caltrans is that they've got an effort now where they're trying to do it in a compassionate way, but I think, you know, they need to collaborate more with you and with locals of breaking up these, for lack of a better word, they're not calling it breaking it up, but the illegal encampments on Caltrans right-of-ways. And so, you know, that may be another resource for you. You know, they have a lot more money available. They have more resources available. I don't know how much of it they're willing to spend for that kind of thing, but they are actively going out to address the illegal, what they call illegal encampments on Caltrans properties and adjacent property. In other words, you know, if there's a park or something like along the North Shore, they have the parks along Highway 20, and if they're even camped out in there, they're also addressing those. They have some resources available for that, so.
Awesome.
I can get you the contact for that.
Yeah,
too.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I'll get that for you by the end of the day. Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah, our point in time count meetings that we do throughout the year, one of the things they look at is what funding resources and what can we do differently that didn't work last year. And it's funny because 2 months prior to a point in time count meeting, everyone comes. And in the past, you know, it's like the meetings, not those 2 months prior, we only have a couple people that are there. So we're really looking at strengthening the resources that are available and having them engaged year round instead of just prior to the point in time count. Yeah.
Supervisor Sabatier?
I know one of the numbers that you and I have been talking about when looking at things like veteran housing, that the numbers of homeless veteran make the difference in the ability to qualify for certain grants. In the future, is it possible to maybe try and combine a stand down and a point in time almost at the same time to be able to really, because I know that's an attractive event for veterans to come to, just to ensure that we can get that number as accurate as possible and try and show that there is a need in this community for veteran housing?
So that's a great question. I know that for the point in time counts, it's mandated that we do it the last week in January. That's mandated because it's nationwide done that week. So we may be able to move the stand downs to that January time period. I know there are restrictions on the funding that they get, and they have to do it during certain times of the year too. But that's definitely something we could look into because the point in time count those numbers don't do anything for HUD when we're talking about some federal funding. I mean, they do on some other projects where you're looking for non-federal money, but they don't for, the stand down doesn't do it for that other stuff.
What did our numbers look like at the stand down for?
52 homeless veterans during a two-day time period for the stand down.
Was that up or down?
That was, it was down a little bit from the year prior, and mostly that was because of the fires. In years prior, we had fires, so there was a lot of people that were coming and were homeless from the fires. So this last year, we didn't have that many fires that dictated veterans being homeless from that, so. But overall, our numbers went higher. We actually had 200 and, I think it was like 220 overall total for the 2-day stand-down, veteran stand-down, so.
Supervisor Crandall?
This is the only day you're doing the count?
The 27th, correct.
There's times too, like, the Upper Lake Town Hall's been really, they've been really hands-on with the bridge removal. I think that's actually what Rob was speaking about, is Caltrans spots. There's a bridge in Cameron, people were living underneath the bridge. They had to evict them from that process, and they are all homeless. I don't know how we're, once they're removed, is there a way we can get that information and get it to you, or, because I don't know.
So one of the things that we're gonna be doing is the flyers that have the locations. We're gonna be getting that out into this month. And we're gonna be getting it to all the different locations that we talked about, mostly the libraries, the bus stops, Lake Transit. And we're gonna be
Senior
getting it to the food
centers.
pantries, senior centers, all those places. So, and we're going to, when we hand those flyers out to them, we're gonna tell them what is the importance of the point in time count and why we're doing it. So when they know those places under the bridges, or they talk to those people as they come in, hey, come back this day and fill out this information.
Because they do come back anyhow. I mean, like, they evict them, but like gradually they move back
Right.
underneath. So this is perfect timing. I'll bring it up to the Worth and the Lath meetings. Actually, I think the lady you're talking about in Lucerne was at the last meeting,
Right.
talking about doing a dinner for the community. So I'll make sure to bring this up, or even invite you or something like
Yeah,
that.
the Upper Lake Senior Center has been pretty involved so far. They're wanting to host a site as well, so.
Right.
And I believe you're still looking for items and things that could be put into these goodie bags to get the homeless to come in and fill out the form. So if there's anybody out there wanting to donate items, what would be a good contact? for them?
If you go on the lakecoc.org webpage, you can get the information of where to donate. It's all the data's on there, and all the forms and all that kind of information's on there, so. Yeah, and anything, and what we're doing is we're packing 600 bags, because that's about what the number we're anticipating. And we're dividing those bags up by the numbers we've used in the different cities in the past. So we're gonna have those bags there, so as volunteers are going out, and we can get those bags out to. So but we have gift cards, $10 food cards, we have hygiene items, we have clothing, socks, a lot of those are in the bags. Our goal actually too is we're going to be giving bags out that have the Lake County COC webpage on them, that have the information on how to get a hold of the COC as well. So throughout the year, if they're having issues, they still have somewhere to go and get information.
And a phone number? I mean, I know it sounds, they don't have computers.
Right.
They could always use a phone. I get calls from some homeless people, they borrow somebody's phone, so they do have the ability to talk to somebody with a phone, but a website may not be optimal.
So the problem with that is the COC is not one organization. And that's what we're working on our strategic planning on, having 2 different locations throughout the lake, where is if you're homeless, you have one phone number to call, and that person can get you to any resources. We don't have anything like that
We
in
don't
Lake
have it
County
like
right
that
now.
yet. There's no number to.
So we're working towards that. That's the goal of our COC, is to have a strategic planning area, whereas if you're homeless, you know exactly where to contact, and they can get you to the exact resources.
Okay. With that, is there any public comment on this item? Questions or comments? No? Okay, seeing no movement, then anything else you want to let us know?
No,
really-
I just appreciate the board, getting us involved and wanting more information. Housing is one of the big things we're working on, and we have to make sure that this point-in-time count does better than it has in the past, so.
Well, you're doing an amazing job running the COC. I've really seen an improvement in the last couple of years, and I'm really excited the direction it's going.
Thank you.
I thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
With that, we're going to take a 5-minute break before we go on with our agenda. Session, we're going to take up our 7.3 item, continue discussion and consideration of options for the elections function, including keeping it as a standalone department or consolidating it with another department. Carol, are you leading us on this?
I just agendized it for you, as I did last time, so I don't have anything in particular to offer.
Supervisor Brown?
I have something to offer. I'm just going to throw it out there. I think, just cut right to the chase. I think given the, the discussion that we've had, which is worthy, it's definitely worthy of that discussion, the time we spent, coming down to all the options that we have available to us, I think the best option at this point clearly is leaving it as standalone.
Concur.
That's my hope.
Supervisor Simon?
At this time going
Yep.
forward, at this time going forward. Could be another discussion down the road, but, yeah. And I don't disagree with that, what we need to get through with the elections coming up and those things, so.
Okay. I agree with that. Anything further before I open it to public?
Ready for vote.
All right, is there any public comment or questions on this item?
Seeing none, let's move on.
Yes, I agree. There's a lot of balls in the air, and time is of the essence.
If you could state your name just for the
Michael
record,
Green, thank
Thanks,
you.
Michael.
And the main thing, I think it was something that came up at the last meeting, because one of the balls in the air will be possible consolidation of the treasurer tax collector with the auditor controller, if that would require a spinoff of the clerk and elections functions 2 years from now. You're not really gaining a whole lot by doing a reorg now, if you're going to be looking at a similar reorg in about 2 years. And because time is of the essence, and because, again, the main deliverable is you need worker bees and a clear vision of how to operate this department in the short term. I think you can bifurcate that issue and take that up at another time when you actually have time to chew through all the positives and the negatives. But I'm definitely supportive of the idea of keeping it independent right now and reporting directly to the Board of Supervisors. Thank you.
Is there anything further from the public? Seeing none, then I'll bring it back to the board. So we need to be given direction to staff, and I think we had 4 nods that we want to keep it a standalone. Is that enough information?
Does it require vote
Does it require
or just
vote?
consensus?
Just consensus?
It's a standalone
It is
technically
now.
right
Just leave it like it is,
so
yeah.
there
We're
is
just
no,
leaving it.
there's no
No
action
action.
There's no
to.
action.
Is it? Because I'm confused.
I'm just making sure that
Yeah.
we're,
No,
Yeah.
I had to think a minute to see what the status was, but it's the same. So you need do nothing except by consensus, you've indicated you want to keep it that way.
Continue that way,
So-
yeah.
okay. Anything further? Okay, I think we're done with that item, so we will move on. Supervisor
Quick,
Sabatier? Yeah.
Before we move on with that item, I know that we had, and I'll watch my words just because I want to make sure that I'm not accidentally going into a closed session. We had appointed Kathy Saderland until December 10th. Today is December 10th. Do we need to make a motion as to how we move forward?
That's not on the agenda, but I don't know.
I mean, it talks about,
Part of the-
That would happen after we.
That's
come out
under your
closed.
closed session
Okay.
item. You'll
Just wanted to make sure.
You'll take action after you make a decision.
okay, just wanted to make sure.
But yeah, not on this item.
I didn't want Kathy coming downstairs saying, what's going on?
No, if that will expire today if you do nothing.
Yeah, yes.
So,
Okay. We will then move on. Our 7.2 item, consideration of an early release of 2 members of the Lower Lake County Waterworks District Number 1 Board of Directors and appointment of new candidates to fill the remaining of unexpired term and a new term beginning January 1st, 2020. There are 2 vacancies and 3 applicants, and this is Supervisor Simon's district.
So just a little background on this. I think this may be the first time this has ever been done. I don't know, Rob. I'm definitely not here as long as you. So with the Lower Lake, we appoint as supervisors in our districts to boards, and there are some community concerns that are happening.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry, there are some community concerns that were happening down with Lower Lake. Folks have reached out to me, and I think an early appointment, releasing some folks and doing some early appointments would be the best way to get the Lower Lake Water District Board of Directors back working for the community as a whole, and that's my intention today, obviously, and hopefully I'll get support from the rest of the board. So
Supervisor Brown.
that's it.
We have done it before, vector control.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No, it's not an easy thing to do because,
Yeah.
you want things to go well, but I know it's a tough decision, tough to bring back, but I support you. There's good reason for it. I'm glad you're I'm glad you're doing it. It's easy just to let it go.
Yeah.
It's hard to do the right thing, but this is the right thing, so.
Any questions or comments from the board before I open it to public? Is there any public comments or questions on this item? See no movement, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
All right. Madam Chair, I can do both at the same time, right? Both, you got to do
Oh,
separate? Okay. I make a motion to appoint Kalita Barnett Proctor.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Oh.
You have to release,
I apologize.
you have to release first and release with the effective date as of, and then you appoint to fill the unexpired term and then appoint for a new term.
Can you do a back date on that? So would it be like yesterday, or do you have to do?
No, you cannot.
So, Madam Chair, I approve to release of the Lower Lake County Water District's District 1 board members Cynthia LeBrun and Stacy Armstrong, effective immediately.
Is it effective immediately, given our discussion this morning?
Actually, yeah, I guess you're right. I need to make that change. It will be effective. Today is the 10th, it'll be the 11th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Kalita Barnhart Proctor to the Lower Lake Water Districts Board.
I'm sorry to interrupt again, but that would be to fill the remainder of that unexpired term and then to begin a new term beginning January 1, 2020. So there'd be two motions, yep.
Okay. So moved.
Well, two motions. So the first one
The
would
first
be
one.
unexpired term beginning December
To remove and then
11,
to fill the expired term,
beginning 12.
Jan 12/11, filling that until January 1, 2020, with Kalita Barnhart Proctor.
That was the second.
Yes.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Madam Chair, I make a motion to fill the position for the Lower Lake Water Districts with Margene Eugene Schlief, and beginning December 11th through January 1, filling the rest of the term, and then being appointed on January 1 to assume the new term in 2020.
Okay.
Second.
Close enough?
It's close enough.
Okay.
It's two separate actions in one motion, so just be aware.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Are you good with that?
No, I'll make the two motions then.
Okay.
Let me fix that then. So I'll make a motion to appoint Marty Schlief from December 11th to January 1 as filling the rest of this term.
That's it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. One more.
Then I'll make a motion that, to appoint Marty Schlief for the term of January 1, 2020, for that term at the Lower Lake Water District Board.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
We're done with that one. All right, since I see Scott in the audience, we will move on to our 7.6 item. Consideration of change order number 2 for 3 SB1 rehabilitation improvement projects, bid number 19-10, for a decrease of $7,218.08 and a revised contract amount of $553,500.15, and authorize the chair to sign. Scott,
Good morning.
this is a good one.
Well, yes, this is balancing change order for our recently completed SB1 project. And we will be bringing a notice of completion to your board later, and I'll bring some photos to show you some of the work that got done there. Pretty happy with that. And we're already making plans for future SB1 projects for next year. So we're happy to deliver this. And this change order is a balancing change order. It is a decrease of $7,218.08. There's a summary of the balancing items attached to the memo. Be happy to answer any questions.
And I'd just like to comment, I love seeing the signs that are popping up. This is an SB1 project, to let the public know, exactly where the funds are coming from.
That was a real effort made through our friends at SEAC and CSAC, and developed those signs, and they encouraged us to put those out on all of our projects, and you'll see more.
Good, 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 good. Is there any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the public on this item? Seeing no movement, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the change order number 2 for 3 SB1 rehabilitation improvement projects, bid number 19-10, for a decrease of $7,218.08 and a revised contract amount of $553,500.15.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
All right, 7.5, consideration of ordinance amending Chapter 5 of the Lake County Code, adopting by reference to the 2019 California Building Standards Code. Mike Lynn. Do you need the lights off now, or wait a second?
Good morning. David Cassian should be arriving shortly.
Okay.
He's going to be presenting giving an overview of the ordinance updates.
Okay.
So he should actually be, there he is now.
You can come on and join us. No, that's all good. Perfect timing. Good morning.
Morning, apologize.
No.
Okay, so I want to bring to you the new changes for the model codes and to put a request in for change to Chapter 5,
Chapter 5 of the
Lake County Code. Okay. All right, so ICC International Code Conference develops the model codes that are utilized worldwide. Prior to ICC, ICBO was the one that wrote the building standards. California Building Standards Commission establishes building standards for use throughout the state. They adopt the ICC developments as written by ICC. January 1st, 2020 is the statewide effective date for the new code changes. And that covers everything from on Title 24, Part 1 through 12. I'm just going to give you kind of a rough overview of some of the code changes that have happened through ICC and the California adoptions. Not all 12 parts, but just a few of the parts. On the building code, there's a new section of the building code that establishes occupancies on roofs. And what allows for occupancies on roofs if the occupancy is a like-for-like for the occupancy below. Unless the building is sprinkled, and if the building is sprinkled, then it doesn't matter, it can be mixed use. Solar systems, which is going to be probably our biggest challenge, is solar is now going to be required in 2020 on all new construction. There are exceptions to their solar requirements. If you have a group area, group homes they're on a solar field, that all the homes are being supplied by solar, then the individual homes do not have to have solar. The other is if they're on a battery supply that again is being solar powered, then they don't have to be individually solared on the homes. Or if the homes are in an area where there's an excessive amount of shade, if it's a mountainous area, if it's in a woodland area where there's a lot of shade, then they don't have to be solar as well. And that's for obvious reasons. They're just not going to get the sun penetration to charge up the solar panels. So the code gives an exception to that.
Can I ask a question while we're on this page right here?
Yes, sir.
Is the solar panel at least vague enough that anything that can generate electricity on the roof, like I know there's the new solar roof shingles that are coming out, does it have to be solar panels, or can it be something else? Like how specific is it that it identifies what it has to be?
I know the shingles are a new product that came out last year. I haven't really had an opportunity to review the shingles. I'm assuming that that's going to be acceptable because that's kind of in the same lineup as what the solar panels are as far as energy producing. But I would assume that at that point that the shingles will be acceptable practice.
Okay.
Okay, on the building residential portion, they're showing walls that separate townhouses. Before, it used to have just one wall that was a 1 hour rated wall. It would have drywall on either side with the 2x4 insulation. We give you the 1 hour rating on the wall. Now they're asking for 2 separate walls, so it's basically like what we used to refer to as a party wall between these townhouses, which is one wall that's built 1 hour to have drywall on both sides, and the other wall that's built with drywall on both sides as well, with insulation in each of the wall, to provide a complete soundproofing and fire protection between the two occupancies. Sorry, I'm having a hard time reading my own writing here.
That's mostly for fire rating though, is?
Mostly for fire rating, for protection of the townhouses. And this has to go from the floor all the way through the roof.
Okay.
So it's just like an occupancy separation wall, but it's going to be basically like a 2 hour firewall, because you have 2 walls now built instead of 1.
So, so it requires actually four levels of drywall or something?
Correct. So you have
Okay.
each wall.
You couldn't do an offset stud?
Yes.
You could do an offset stud?
You could do an offset stud,
Okay,
yes.
got it, okay.
Would you like me to read that?
No, it's about the impervious moisture barrier system. It's on balconies, anything that's elevated, where walkways, that type of thing, where there's a moisture barrier that has to be by design in the plans. Whoever the engineer architect is will have to put that into with all the elements of design for the impervious barrier. That's just to ensure that you're maintaining a good barrier. A lot of the barriers were failing before, so now we want something in there that's by design, and that's someone that's going to take responsibility for it. So that's been added to the code for that. Factory-built chimneys now require basically shields, barriers, if they're penetrating any kind of insulated wall. And that's for obvious reasons. If you have the fence going through, you want to make sure that you have the proper protection from any combustible materials. Also, when the chimneys break through the attic area, they want a barrier that's going to extend up 2 inches above the insulation, again, to keep anything from falling against that chimney to create a fire. So that's just something that's kind of been a general practice, but now it's being put into the code as a requirement. Crawl spaces, this is new to the electrical code. Crawl spaces are now GFCI protected on the circuits for the lighting. Tamper-resistant protection for all 15 and 20 amp circuits are now required for non-locking type receptacles. And direct current and multi-grid, DC multi-grids, that's a new article as well to the electrical section. Closed dryer exhaust now is allowed to increase in length if there's some type of apparatus that provides a mechanical exhaust ventilation. It's pushing the air through instead of it being gravity drafted now. So if there's a device in there that's blowing, then you can extend, and that's per the manufacturer of the device. The device itself makes the recommendation of what the limitations are for their particular unit. So you'd have a unit that draws, like the one that you're seeing there on the roof. That one actually draws. They have some that are actually down at the unit that will actually blow. So you either have a draw or push or pull, one way or the other, and per manufacturer. There's been added requirements to flexible ducting as far as how the flexible ducting is connected, how it's being supported in attic areas, to make sure that there's no dipping of the flexible ducting or that the ducting itself is being collapsed and that it's secured properly. And a lot of this is going into the energy requirements to ensure that there's no loss of ventilation. Metered faucets now have dropped down to 0.2 gallons from 0.225. So there's more of a reduction now on faucets than what there was before. Single-user facilities are now supposed to be marked with identification for both sexes. This is something that's been talked about since the beginning of this year, that they were going to push into force. Now it's actually stepping into the code. On decorative type fireplaces, there should be a closable glass door now that completely seals the front of the fireplace. Instead of just having a screen, now there has to be a glass door that closes it off. And also there needs to be a combustion air intake to draw air from the outside into the firebox to provide oxygen to the fire. Walls now that are 2 by 6, before on exterior walls, R13 was the acceptable installation. And that's fine with 2 by 4, but a lot of homes are building 2 by 6 walls, and usually that's to accommodate for any kind of plumbing application in the home. If it's 2 by 6, it now needs to be R20. So they're stepping the insulation up on the 2 by 4 walls because of the additional space. Doors which separate conditioned airspace also have to be rated doors as well. That's new to the code. And the glass in the doors, there's a limitation on the size of the glass, and I didn't put that in. I can provide that to you later if anybody's interested in that requirement. And that's it. That's what I have on code changes.
Supervisor Sabatier, you want to get the lights for us? Is there any questions or comments from the board before I open up to public? Is there any public comment on this item? If you could please state your name and then 3 minutes, please.
Hi, Jessica Peiska with Cawberry Council. I'm just wondering, are these the net zero codes that have been anticipated for years?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a cost increase that you're expecting, or have you?
There may be a cost increase because of the more restrictive requirements. I don't know what that cost would be.
It seems like maybe the solar panels are probably the biggest cost.
Solar panels will be the biggest cost. There'll be an adjustment there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joan Moss, I'm wondering if this could be presented in a way that's readable. Having the dark green background made it very difficult for me to read the small print that was presented at this presentation. Secondly, I want to know who's going to enforce this and what effort is being made to contact the contractors who will be building homes so they know. Thank you.
I think, Joan, if you look in our agenda and the items, this is all listed in the ordinance, right? All the information that you gave us is.
Does it have a white background?
It does have a white background, so it's easier to read. And then I would believe community development's in charge of building inspection.
Yeah, the building inspectors will be the ones that will be doing the inspection. As far as contractor knowledge, contractors are responsible for educating themselves when the changes take place. They're aware that the changes take place every 2 years as well and keep themselves up to speed. They do rely a lot on inspection personnel, and we are out there trying to educate the public and contractors when these changes happen. When the inspectors make site visits, they do bring things up to contractors.
Well, and architects and engineers
Yes,
and
sir.
everyone that's involved knows what that is. And so, yeah, it's widely known, yeah.
Part of the industry.
Any further questions or comments?
Just one comment.
Supervisor Simon?
Is there a change to the roofing materials too in certain areas?
Not that I'm aware of. I didn't see any change to roofing materials.
There's no, I'm sorry, I just know this because I'm dealing with it right now. There's no required changes in roofing, but there's a substantial change in roofing materials that are available to people if they want to use them, so.
Yeah, I think, went to my state board services meeting yesterday at the state, and the individual ICC was talking about some of the new changes. Thought there was going to be an upgrade on the material that could be used under the roofing in certain areas. My direct question, just like Jessica had, was, well, what's the cost to the contractor and the homeowner? So might be some information. I thought there was another thing too that was going to be coming down in 2020 about sheeting against the home between any of the decks and other stuff that engineers will have to put together. So there were some potential new changes. I got a lot of information yesterday on that. Maybe we can sit down and talk a little bit about it or get in contact. But I know got a whole list of things. I have the agenda and other stuff that were approved yesterday that may be coming into play in 2022, so
There are
that'll
some
be an
changes.
opportunity.
There are some changes with insulation, requiring the attic area to become insulated if it's a closed-off attic and it's part of the conditioned airspace. I didn't want to go into that because that's kind of a specialty
Yeah,
type of
they
thing.
threw a bunch of stuff out there, and then, because I was asking about WUI, wildland urban interface, which we have a lot here in our area, especially with the materials used on the roofing. It's not the overall roofing material, it's what's underneath it, that they put the roofing on, that there's going to be some type of a change. So I'll make sure to get that information to you.
I'll look into it. A lot of the stuff that ICC generates with the code changes, the state doesn't adopt.
They were adopting this one, it was
Were
the
they?
State Board of Fire Services as of yesterday. That was something they were proposing, so.
I'm sure that stuff, there are going to be changes made for a long time to come, I think, as a result of the fires. I think
Yeah.
a lot of it is going to be material available, and, I'll be honest with you, the solar thing, they got a big lobby. It's the
Oh,
big
yeah.
green thing, it may not be solar by itself is not the answer, but I'm going solar, I'm going completely off the grid, but, they make a lot of these recommendations, and maybe we'll see it in 2022 or whatever. But there's a lot of material out there that it's expensive. It's not cheap, but it's a lot of hardening stuff. Fire blocking and stuff that gives you an extra hour or two if there is a fire. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming out.
Even some of the venting was being talked about, whether it's mesh or it's graded. There was some conversation yesterday too on those issues, so. Make sure to talk to you before I go to the next one too, as we move it up. So that'll be coming to the agenda with the board that votes on that. So any of those things, we want to make sure we have a voice now that can come from a local county boots on the ground, and make sure we ask the right questions and really talk about what's happening, how it interfaces with Lake County and us.
Supervisor Sabatier?
I have a really stupid question. Do we have to approve this? I know it says it's recommended, and it's coming down from the state. And here's my reason for this, and Supervisor Brown alluded to it a little bit about the solar panels. We know PG&E is moving their time period for when electricity is cheap and when it's expensive, and they're going to move it that you can actually make money, which people are not making money but reducing their bills with their solar panels. They're going to move it from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., which means you're going to see almost in the future, within 2 years, 3 years, the exact same bill we saw 3 years ago before solar panels, and now you're going to pay for solar panels, but you're not going to have the benefit of solar panels unless you purchase a battery, which is now another additional thing. So now we're making our houses that much more expensive, forced to have solar panels, but not actually getting the benefit of having solar panels. If you did this 5-10 years ago, you would have had all the benefits in the world because you would have seen your reduction in your bill almost down to zero. Now we're adding a cost of $25,000, $30,000 to our houses, which is already difficult to find people to build houses, and there's not going to be the benefit of having solar panels on your roof other than maybe feeling good because you feel green, but your bill is still going to be there from PG&E unless you somehow can afford to get a battery backup and get off the grid itself. So I'm just asking the question, do we have to approve this? Because the more it gets expensive to build houses, the less likely we can get developers to come in here and build houses. And we have a housing issue here. We need to build houses. And so my question stands. Do we have to? Can we nitpick and choose which one? I love the fireproof stuff because we're dealing with fire. So I don't want to say, no, I don't want you to be fire safe. But the solar panels is almost a 2003 mentality, not a 2020 mentality. And so we're adding cost to something that we're already struggling to build because of cost.
They're expensive, yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. What is what is it? I mean, it's nothing to you, you're just bringing it to us, you're the messenger, but what if we say we don't think that people should be required to put in solar? They should have the option. What is the?
Well, this is regulated by the state. It's not even by design by the code.
So we have to do it no matter what?
We have to do it regardless, yeah, because the state's telling us now.
It's a symbolic gesture that we're approving it.
2020 that we have to do it.
Yeah.
And as far as the code itself, once California adopts the code, they give each county, each state, I think it's about, I think, if I remember, I was looking for the language actually to be able to give that to you. I think it was 6 months timeline to adopt the codes that were accepted by California. That California's gone through and reviewed and put their amendments into it, and then we have to adopt it after a certain period of time.
And I'm being picky about it, but is one solar panel good enough to say you passed, you put one solar panel?
They actually
Does it have to be enough to actually, for the square footage, that based on their formula, that it would cover your square footage?
They actually have a breakdown with a formula. So yeah, so there's calculations that have to be done. An engineer would have to go in and figure the calculations out for the square footage of the house to determine what the solar panels are required, are needed for that residence.
Supervisor?
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question that's probably been answered, or I just didn't see it, but, so this is any building from here forward, or is this also going in like retro, or are you gonna be inspecting homes that don't have,
No, this is just moving forward.
Right, and this is why I wanna say this, is so that people that are watching and listening understand that, I don't want them to be afraid and think they have to go out and get solar right away, or all of that, or it's just building, right?
This is applicable to building permits submitted January 1st, 2020, moving forward. So as long as the building permit is submitted before that time period, it falls under the 2016 building code and not the 2019 building code.
I just wanted you to say that so people, so they're not thinking that all of these codes are gonna go backwards, because it doesn't make sense for you to even have to go and inspect all of that. I don't think you can ever get that done, but I know that there's always a hysteria around anything that we change when it comes to ordinances or amend, and people get like this fear, like, I have to do this, and just wanted that to be stated. Thank you.
Supervisor Brown?
You guys are bringing up some good points that bring up even more questions. So if somebody gets their plans in prior to January 1st, they're under the wire.
Yes.
Okay. And then the other thing is, what about remodels?
The same thing. Anything that comes in before January 1st.
No, any remodels going to require that the whole house is required?
No.
for solar? Okay.
This is. Okay, typically this would just be for a new home, but
Yeah.
if you have any kind of construction that happens on a property that exceeds 50% of the value of the property.
Okay.
Then at that point, that triggers
That's the
compliance
trigger.
with.
So a remodel that exceeds 50%
Yes.
of the value of the home.
Of the value of the home.
Okay. Okay.
It's good to know. Thank you.
That's not good.
I mean, it's good to know that.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is, but.
Joan, you wanted to had a quick question? Okay, go ahead.
Joan Moss, what I'm wondering is if Lake County could draw up and propose incentives and amendments to this code so that contractors who are building under the 2020 code will get a financial incentive to install solar panels. It will be some sort of financial incentive to, the state could institute some kind of benefit to the people who have to spend extra money installing solar panels. We certainly have a lot of sun in Lake County, and it's an untapped resource. But it seems to me with Governor Newsom, he has a lot of social programs he's promoting to the homeless and the low income. And it seems with Lake County that the contractors building in Lake County might get an incentive to install solar panels and somehow get recompensated. Okay? If the state could establish that as part of this code, that low-income people, for instance, Habitat for Humanity, building houses for veterans and low-income families, could get paid back for following these building codes. The state would give a financial incentive to contractors who are find it a financial hardship to spend that much more money. The state could pay them back.
Thank you.
I don't know how much money the state has, but they're establishing the law. Maybe they could back it up. with some financial incentives.
I think there's a tax credit for solar panels. Is that still going to be, do we know?
It's decreasing, but yeah, there is one. And it's probably still going to be applicable for new solar panels, but it's decreasing as we speak.
Just an idea.
Thank you.
Anything further?
No.
Okay, then this has to be done, there's two, a motion to waive the reading and then a motion to advance.
A motion to waive the reading.
And read it in title only.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, let me read that out, what it says. Where does it say it at?
Right here.
Oh, got it. Okay, I make a motion to waive the reading of the ordinance and to have it read by title only. The Lake County Code and Ordinance, right?
The clerk reads it.
Well, I'm waiting for a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we do all in favor? Yeah, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then read it. If you could read the title of the ordinance.
No, I think she should read the whole ordinance.
Front to back.
Do we have it here? Throw you a curveball today.
Threw us one too, apparently.
No, he was joking.
No, just the top part, just the title, right, Anita?
Is the title of the ordinance, how it appears at the top of the page of the ordinance.
Okay. An ordinance amending Chapter 5 of the Lake County Code and adopting by reference the 2019 California Building Standards Code, known as, it's the whole thing.
Yeah, it looks like, yeah, it's in bold, I
That
think.
whole
Yeah, it's in
top title,
bold,
yeah.
yeah.
Known as the California Code of Regulations, Title 24, Parts 1 through 6, 8 through 12, incorporating the 2019 edition of the California Building Code, the 2019 edition of the California Residential Code, the 2019 edition of the California Electrical Code, the 2019 edition of the California Plumbing Code, the 2019 edition of the California Mechanical Code, the 2019 edition of the California Green Building Code, the 2019 edition of the California Energy Code, the 2019 edition of the California Fire Code, the 2019 edition of the California Administrative Code, the 2019 edition of the California Historical Building Code, the 2019 edition of the California Existing Building Code, the 2018 edition of the International Property Maintenance Code, and the 2018 edition of the International Wildland Urban Interface Code.
So Sam didn't pick that up. Can you get the microphone and a little closer to you? Maybe.
No, he's kidding. He's kidding.
And now it would be offered, right?
Yeah.
Yes, now you make a motion to advance for a second reading.
Okay.
Then you get to read it again in a couple of weeks.
No,
Make a motion
No.
to,
No.
just move to advance a minimum of 5 days for second reading.
I motion to move in a minimum of 5 days for the second reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Then you want to back on to the 17th?
Yeah.
Yes.
And well done, John.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Joanna's like, what?
Thank you.
Thank you. 7.4, consideration of the following appointments. Cobb Municipal Advisory Council, District 5. There's 3 vacancies and 5 applicants.
Oh, shoot, hold on. Now you threw me a curve here. Pull that up. That's 7.4.
0.4.
Downloading here. Okay, so we need to renew some of these. I think we have
They all say new, but
some.
don't they?
Okay, so, and this is tough. I'm really glad that there are this many applicants that are interested. And, you know, some of these I don't know as well as others, but I'm happy with the 3 that I'm going to recommend. I know them, so I don't have a problem at all with putting them on. I just don't want to hurt anybody's feelings because I didn't pick them. But for the 3 spots and 5 applications, I'm recommending that we, and I can do one motion on these, right?
We have to do public comment first, but
Yeah, but you have to vote.
Oh, got it, okay, go ahead.
But yes,
Yeah,
you can
go ahead. Well,
vote.
my recommendation is going to be Jessica Pyska, Cynthia Leonard, and Donald Strickler. So those are my recommendations
Any
when it comes time. So
comments or questions for the board before open to public? Any comments or questions from the public on this item? Joan, if you can come up, you state your name in 3 minutes. You have a question? Okay.
When this commission first began, this Cobb Area Council, I was told, I remember, that the first membership on the council was what the supervisors decided on, but that after that, we could vote on our own. We didn't have to get the members approved by the Board of Supervisors, that we were self-contained, and we didn't have to send the applicants back to you, but we could vote by hand on our own at the public meeting. I thought that's what I was told. I don't understand why the supervisors are voting on this new membership, because I thought we could vote on it ourselves as a council.
I can't confirm or deny what you were told or what you think you were told, but this is the way it has to happen. This is the way that it's set up, so.
Any further public comment or questions before I bring it back to the board?
Madam Chair, there's 2 members at large and 1 alternate, so does Supervisor Brown's motion differentiate?
Okay, so I'm going to ask Jessica to weigh in on this. Is there a recommendation on that the committee would, has maybe discussed? If you could. Thank you for the reminder of that, Anita.
So you have 5 applications?
Mhm.
Does that include the other 2 board members that,
The other 2 aren't up until the first of the year.
okay,
So there's only 3 vacancies right now.
Correct.
Or not vacancies, but they've expired. The membership has expired, and until we renew it, it's.
right, and we
So-
voted, we also didn't realize that we had to come back for reappointment.
Right.
And so we voted in July, I believe.
Okay.
For these 3 vacant, or just to
Yeah.
have their terms re-extended.
Yeah. The vote is not made by the council, it's made
Right.
by the board, as we all know now. But who out of these 2 should be permanent and which one should be
Donald Strickler is the
alternate?
alternate.
Okay, all right, so that would be my recommendation
And
then.
Jessica, just state your name.
Oh, Jessica Pyska.
Thank you.
And I do understand that we have to come for board appointment, but these, we were all approved or voted for by everybody in attendance.
This just makes it, this just makes it official,
Yep,
but yeah.
got it.
I think that works out,
Okay,
so.
Okay, thank you.
And Joan didn't fill out an application, so I can't recommend her, but maybe next time. Maybe next time, so.
All right, so
So that's my motion.
Your motion is for Jessica and Cynthia as members and
Members,
then Donald
as the alternate, yes.
I'll second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I think we just have calendars.
I believe we also should do public comment since we did it before 9:05.
You're right, you're right.
Input.
So public comment, our 9:05 item. Is there anybody wishing to give public comment on items that are not appearing on the posted agenda? Okay, seeing none, then we will move to calendars. Supervisor Sabatier.
Let me get to it. I know I have the LTA APC tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in Lakeport. I'm going to be joining the Lake EDC on a Thursday morning after I go to Judge's Breakfast. And then I have a Clear Lake City Council meeting I will be going to as well. I've also been invited to discuss, since I'm chairing the hemp ad hoc committee with the Lake EDC during their retreat, just to let them know what the laws are, where we stand, and what we're working on. And that's all I have so far, and then I'll be back here on the 16th on Monday to prepare myself for Tuesday's meeting on the 17th.
Okay, Supervisor Simon?
Meeting this afternoon after this, obviously we do agenda review, but then also have a meeting with Diane Feinstein's people here in the office. Tomorrow I have Lake Transit Authority and Area Planning Council. Tomorrow night I have 2 groups, but I'm going to the Democratic Committee in Lower Lake and be meeting with them. Hopefully that'll get over soon enough where I can go to the Lower Lake Action Committee for the final dinner of the year over there. Thursday morning, I got a bunch of stuff stacked up. I was hoping to go to the holiday potluck, but we have the Geothermal Advisory Committee meeting that's down in Middletown at the Calpine Center, so I won't be able to attend that. And then later that night, I have the math meeting in Middletown. On Friday the 13th, and I got something I'm missing on the 13th too. Well, I can't remember what that is right now. And then the 14th, I have 2 events on Saturday. I'm doing Reach Across America. A young man is doing his senior project, and so they're bringing it to the Milltown Cemetery for the first time, which I think is excellent. I know EJ, you're doing, you'll do your announcement. I think that's great. It's a great program I've been invited to. Started in Lower Lake and now doing one in Middletown. So we'll do that. And then Christmas in Middletown. Start, I think it's 5 to 9 p.m. in Middletown Saturday night, and then come back here. I'll probably clear I think for Monday, I have, my wife is having surgery, which I just found out on Monday, so my schedule will probably be cleared on that day as of tomorrow, and then back here for the meeting on Tuesday. One report, I did attend the State Board of Fire Services, our 4th quarter meeting, had it at the State Fire Marshal's office yesterday. We're moving right along. Some of the stuff we were talking about as far as Code 24 compliance and things, that's the board that'll be making the decision on those. So I think we have opportunity to bring, our concerns as we move through the process. Talked about the rebuilding, what is the effect on, we're talking about solar panels, but the implementation of fire sprinklers. I think they should be outside, not inside. So anyway, conversations and what the cost to the folks that are rebuilding our communities, how these decisions are going to affect them, and what opportunities we have to kind of get some more boots on the ground information of these folks that are making the decisions. I think that's very important. Thank you.
Go for it, because the obvious.
So at some point, maybe we could agendize this, because the sprinkler thing is a good discussion. Because of what we've experienced, it seems like fire sprinklers on the outside would be best, but originally it was proposed because most house fires start from the inside. So maybe there's an option for both, or I don't know.
Yeah, some of that discussion will come up, so.
Yeah, none of it does any good. None of it does any good when they're out of water.
If
So
it comes back,
which
and that's the
happens.
other conversation.
That's the biggest problem, yeah. So,
Madam Chair?
But there's solar.
Supervisor Sabatier.
I forgot to mention one thing. We did receive after, or right before Thanksgiving break, or right around then, we did receive a letter from the city of Clear Lake regarding our tax collector's office and defaulted properties. I just wanted to acknowledge that we did receive their letter that they had approved through their city council, and that we are working on a response, and we'll get back to them. Just wanted to make sure and say that.
Supervisor Brown.
So, I have, today, I'll be working with the shuttling gifts over to the foster agency, and doing that, trickling that through the week. A few people are bringing their things in the next day or so. And then I'm working with behavioral health on an issue at the Lake County Jail. I'll be out there, meeting them out there at 1:30 this afternoon on that. And then I have a couple other meetings scheduled. I've got a meeting tomorrow with Andy and Jeff Lucas from Lake County Economic Development Corporation. Thursday, I have an appointment in Santa Rosa that will prevent me. I was actually supposed to be in Los Angeles, and I canceled that, and I will be in Santa Rosa. I have an appointment down there. I'll miss the holiday party here. And I'm scheduling an appointment at some point. I know that she's really busy this week, today at least, but I'm going to be meeting with Barbara Ringen up there to discuss some options maybe that we might be able to bring back to the board for her department as well. And that came as a result, actually, of a meeting that I had with Alan Flora yesterday from the city. They got some thoughts there. Regardless of how you see it in the press, there's not this antagonistic division between the city and the county. They really, really want to help us and work with us to try to resolve this, and they understand the issues, but I think.
The goal is results.
Yeah, that's it, for sure. So I appreciate his input on that, and I'll be meeting with her this week, so. That's all I have on my calendar here.
Supervisor Crandall?
So tomorrow, I have RCRC in Sacramento, and then I'll have to come back to the Blue Ribbon Committee at New Paradigm College in Lucerne. So I'll be hitting those tomorrow. Still trying to figure out the Workforce Alliance deal on Thursday. If not, I think it's a what do you call that, a workshop possibly? If that's the case, I'll stay for the party, and then I have an appointment in San Francisco resulting from the surgery I had a couple months back. Friday, Regional Legislative Water Workshop in Calistoga. I'll be attending that on Friday. Reads Across America. When I was at the Veterans Day event over at Canocti Vista, one of the young men asked if I would be a part of that, so I would do it, and I think it's in Lower Lake. So they had asked, and I asked them, well, maybe there might be something going on at Upper Lake. They're apparently doing their own deal, so I told them I would do it. So I'll be doing that on Saturday in the morning, and then I have on my calendar another Workforce Alliance meeting here on Monday in Conference Room B. I'll have to double check, but I know that's on my calendar, so I'm just checking and making sure that happens, and then CAO meeting, and then back here on Tuesday for the Board of Supervisors meeting.
Okay, after today's meeting, I'll be attending agenda review, and then I have a meeting with special districts at 2 o'clock. I'll be attending the fire board meeting here in Lakeport at 5, and then the Lake County Fair is having a meeting tonight to discuss issues or what we want to see at the fair from 6 to 9 tonight. Tomorrow I'll be in the office in the morning, and then attending the chamber mixer at 5:30. On Thursday, I'll be in the office in the morning, and then I have a call with Senator McGuire at 11:30, so I'll be late for the potluck, but I'll be showing up after that. I have a meeting with AAA at 1:30 that afternoon, and then helping do intake at the Warming Center Thursday evening. Friday, I'll be in the office in the morning, and then leaving for the water conference with Supervisor Crandall. About 10 o'clock, we'll probably leave for that. And then coming back to serve dinner with Hope Rising at the Warming Center that evening at the team building that we're doing. On Saturday, I will be attending Reese Across America in Lakeport. And then Sunday, Lake County Theater Company's doing story time. It's free. It's, can't remember what church it's at, but I'll be reading one of the stories. 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. And then on the 16th, I'll be heading down to San Jose to pick up my daughter for Christmas break. College is over with, and then back here on Tuesday.
Madam Chair, I forgot to add
Yes.
something. Last week at the Earth and CSA meeting, the Animal Control Director and the Code Enforcement Director, they had both attended and informed and discussed, asked questions with all of the town councils and the constituents in the area, and they did a really good job. It was really beneficial to have them there to not only just answer questions, but also educate them on certain things and aspects that are going on in their departments. Very helpful, very good energy, and the people were very pleased with the responses. I mean, it wasn't all like they didn't say yes to everything. They told them they just answered why this is happening, why this isn't happening. Gave them good scenarios. They did a really good job. I was really happy to have them there. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you. With that, I think we've finished all our open session items. We will go into closed session item. Before that, I'll read the items. 8.1, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, Flesh versus Lake County District Attorney of Office et al. 8.2, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, Global Industries versus Barbara Ringen. 8.3, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, FVRC, project number 77, Potter Valley Hydroelectric Project. And 8.4, public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B. 1, interviews of register of voters, or A, interviews, and B, appointment of register of voters. With that, we'll go into closed session.
I got a question before we go into closed session regarding 8.2. We received an email from a party in there, and they've asked for a continuance on this, but is
Oh,
that?
yeah, that's right.
Not on the closed session. This is
Well,
going
it's-
to come in front of the board on an open session.
On another date, because I noticed it was on the calendar here. Is that what she was talking about? Because she asked for it to be continued from today. Do they understand that it's not on for,
It's not on for action.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So-
don't know that they understand that.
Maybe-
They don't have the ability to ask to continue.
No, but maybe we need to respond to them to
No,
tell
we
them.
will.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, with that, we're in close. Thank you.